is CNN Breaking News.
Hello to you, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Natalie Allen, and we begin with breaking news. In a highly anticipated TV interview, former FBI Director James Comey talks candidly about being fired, then attacked by U.S. President Donald Trump. And Comey held back nothing, giving his assessment of his former boss in plain terms.
Is Donald Trump unfit to be president?
Yes, but not in the way I often hear people talk about it. I don't buy this stuff about him being mentally incompetent or early stages of dementia. He strikes me as a person of above average intelligence who's tracking conversations and knows what's going on. I don't think he's medically unfit to be president. I think he's morally unfit to be president.
White lives matter! White lives matter!
A person who sees moral equivalence in Charlottesville, who talks about and treats women like they're pieces of meat, who lies constantly about matters big and small and insists the American people believe it, that person's not fit to be president of the United States on moral grounds.
Comey is starting a media tour promoting a new book coming out this week. In that book, A Higher Loyalty, Truth, Lies, and Leadership, Comey gives his account of being asked to drop the investigation of former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and swear loyalty to President Trump. As for the lingering question, was President Trump compromised by the Russians? Comey did not have a definitive answer.
Do you think the Russians have something on Donald Trump?
I think it's possible. I don't know. These are more words I never thought I'd utter about a president of the United States, but it's possible.
That's stunning. You can't say for certain that the president of the United States is not compromised by the Russians.
Yeah, it is stunning, and I wish I wasn't saying it, but it's the truth. It always struck me and still strikes me as unlikely, and I would have been able to say with high confidence about any other president I dealt with, but I can't. It's possible.
Before the ABC network interview aired, President Trump went on a Twitter rampage against Comey. In one of his many tweets Sunday, he called Comey a slimeball and a leaker and a liar. Well, joining me now from Los Angeles to break this down and give analysis to this interview, Peter Mathews, political analyst and professor of political science at Cypress College. Peter, thanks for talking with me. We've just had an hour.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you. An hour of this interview. This is Comey's first interview since he was fired. He doesn't have much to say about the president in the positive, but this comes down to the Mueller investigation, which Comey's firing by the president launched. Does Comey's book, his attack on the president, affect that investigation, which he could be a star witness?
Well, certainly as a star witness he would affect it, but the book itself, I don't think it affects it. But the book is so remarkable because the book itself is a bombshell in the sense that there's been no, in the past, a high-ranking official like the FBI director to be able to attack the president, to say that the president was so morally unfit to be president. It's never happened in the past in any presidency. And that's what was remarkable about this book. It was no new revelation, so to speak. But the fact the book was even written and the way Comey comes out against Trump as a leader and questioned his moral authority to lead is just amazing. And I think it's going to have a major impact overall in the presidency.
Yeah, you talk about no major revelations. Some were calling it a bombshell, but some of the things that Comey says about the president, Republicans have said about the president as far as him being morally unfit and some other things. But Comey met early on with President Trump, and Mr. Trump reportedly asked him to lay off Michael Flynn, his national security advisor, who was later fired by the president. Here's Comey on that meeting.
You said, Mr. President, I can't discuss this with you. You're doing something improper.
Maybe. Although, if he didn't know he was doing something improper, why did he kick out the Attorney General and the Vice President of the United States and the leaders of the intelligence community? I mean, why am I alone if he doesn't know the nature of the request? But it's possible that in the moment I should, another person would have said, sir, you can't ask me that. That's a criminal investigation. That could be obstruction of justice.
Was President Trump obstructing justice?
Possibly. I mean, it's certainly some evidence of obstruction of justice.
How about that one? Is that a window into this investigation?
Well, certainly when he comes out and says it's very possible he obstructed justice. But here's the thing about morality and ethics. He says he's untethered to the truth. That means that he's saying that the president has no moral compass. He's not connected to the rule of law. And those are very heavy charges that I think quite often, I would say they're pretty accurate overall, because you've seen President Trump say things that are not true, backtrack on his promises this way and that is not very positive leadership when it comes to a president. And Comey is just confirming this from a front row seat. So I think there's a good chance that he did obstruct justice, and Comey says the same thing. So we'll have to see how the investigation, eventually what happens when the reports are finally written up.
Of course, the White House isn't holding back in responding. They've called him a liar, a leaker. The president has called him a slime ball in a tweet. And Comey does go low. He attacks the president personally. His looks, ties, hands, hair. Does that corrode Comey's integrity at all and his message overall in this book?
It could be a detraction from some people who are reading it. But it is, of course, a book that he wants it to be sold widely or read widely, and so he writes it in an entertaining way to some extent, and those personal attacks are seen that way, in my view. But, you know, I don't want to criticize him too much for his personal, saying that President Trump, you know, talks about his hands and his makeup, his eyes and all this. I think that could have been left out if you just want to be purely an analysis of what the president's like as a leader and what he's lacking. But this is a book that needs to be widely read, and I think Comey wrote it in that way.
And I suppose as he goes on his book tour, Comey will be asked repeatedly, oh, why did you go there as far as the personal attacks
of course.
On this president? It'll be interesting to see his answer. But according to Comey's interview, we saw President Trump and the White House early on were not concerned when Comey met with the president about Russia's involvement in the election, to the point that the hindrance, it might have been a hindrance that affected our democracy. He says there wasn't any outrage by the president over that. And that in part adds fuel to the mystery, doesn't it, of the Trump-Russia relationship, which continues to be at the center of Mr. Mueller's investigation.
Absolutely, because this unconcern about Russia on the part of the president is very concerning for the rest of us and for Comey himself. And it just shows that what is holding President Trump back from coming clean and saying, let the investigation continue. I won't say a word about it. Instead, he's been trying to interject all the time, and that's where obstruction of justice can come in. Leave it alone. And when I had a chance to talk to him on this show, I said, Mr. Trump, the best thing you can do is to leave the investigation alone, leave Mr. Mueller alone, and let the law take its course. That's the rule of law principle, that the law has to be applied evenly and equally to anyone. The president is not above the law, but President Trump doesn't seem to understand that in a lot of ways. He thinks that he could be seen as above the law, the way he's acting and saying, and asking Comey to lay off of the investigation of Michael Flynn. I mean, that's amazing that a president would actually do that, and in a one-on-one dinner of all times. I think Comey has a lot to say about that, and very significantly so.
Right, and as far as the president being above the law, the New York Times editorial, a blistering attack on that score, and we're going to get into that our next hour here as in CNN Newsroom, and we know we'll see you again then. Peter Mathews, thanks again. We'll see you in a little while.
Okay, thank you.